Alright, so we're back and we're going to now connect Dynamo up to our Revit project and use it to calculate some occupancy loads. So if I come in here to my add-ins, I have Dynamo loaded. I'm going to click on that and it's going to open up Dynamo. And if I bring Dynamo up here, we are just going to open up this recent occupancy by level Dynamo definition. And if you've never used Dynamo, you can download it for free from dynamobim.org if you'd like to do that. And click on room occupancy by level and it's going to open up a definition. As I mentioned in the intro, let me pull this over a little bit so we got a little bit more real estate. A lot of what I'm going to do today is developed and taken from arcalab.net and Conrad Soban, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And the package that you would need to download in order to get rooms by level is this Grimshaw package. So you can see that over here. To get packages, you can come under package and search for a package and go get and load the Grimshaw package. So let's take a look at what this definition is doing. We're taking advantage of this Grimshaw get rooms by level, and it's also going to exclude unplaced rooms. So there's a Python code in here that goes in and looks and gathers all the rooms and looks for rooms of 0 square footage and then gets rid of them for you, so it's quite nice. So this little code block with the number 1, you could use a number block if you wanted to, is a Boolean yes to get rid of those. And then this little node over here is a level node, so you can choose which level to get the rooms by. So I went in and placed that in. And then you can see if we run this, it's going to look at the Revit file, and if I click on this and move it up, it's going to go get all of the rooms from level 2 and list their names and also list their unique IDs. It's also going to do that for level 1. Right, so there's a level 1. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just creating a list. I'm combining those two lists. So if I look at that array, it actually gets rid of the names, gets rid of the strings, and takes just the IDs. And then if we go in, we're accessing a parameter name that Revit gives it already called area, right? And if you come and look at the array here, you'll see that it's actually giving the area for each one of those from the list, right? And then in this particular get parameter by name, it's actually getting the occupancy type. So if we look at that, it's getting those occupancy types that we typed in to our schedule right there. All right, and just for those of you that are not completely familiar with list creating, the lists are in the same order so they correspond. So basically what I'm doing here, and again this is from the Arcalab walkthrough, is this gets plugged into a string split and it gets split by the dash. So if you look here, it's just going to split that string into a dash, and we're going to take that number out of the dash for use. So that means that it's actually directly pulling from this room schedule. So if any of these to change, then our occupancy load will change, which you can see it's already filled in our occupancy load here. So basically this is taking this array, right, this list, and it's splitting it by the minus. So if we do that, you can see that it's splitting those two up, and then the list gets flattened once. So what that does is you can see, let me move this code block out of the way, we've got list 0, 0 and then a sublist in there, and we're flattening it once. So that gets rid of one of those zeros, which allows the list map to go in and pick the index 1 of all of those lists. So we have a get item at index that goes into the list map and runs through that list and gets that number 1 index, and you'll see if it just pulls those numbers out, right? And so this changes a string, which is a text, into a number so we can use it in a divisor. So that is a bit of an operation to get through, just to be able to use that occupancy type, right, directly from the schedule in a more traditional sense. Okay, so this one again is getting the area, so you can see the area being pumped out of there. And then what happens in this little thing right here is it's actually getting rid of that foot squared, so we can divide it. And the SI, this is a little bit of a workaround, and I'm sure there may be a better way, so let me know if anybody does. But this just strips the foot squared off, and once you do that, it actually changes it into Dynamo units, which is meter squared, and so you have to change them back into square feet, which is a little weird, but it's a quick way just to strip the foot squared off of there. And then I came in, and at this point the list gets flattened, right? So if you take a look at it, it just gets flattened into a straight list, and that list gets fed into a divisor. So basically it takes, at this point we've got the area with us in an array, right, and we've got that string to number in array, and it's going to take this and divide it by that, right? So this is our room occupancy load divisor, so x by y. And what happens is that comes out, and in order to avoid the division by 0, which I could, I actually just put in a little if then. So if I were to plug that directly into there and run it, these would turn yellow. They would work, but they would just get upset because we're dividing by 0 here, by infinity, and they would yell at you and say, oh, you're terrible. So basically this little if then gets rid of the zeros by creating it like a 10 million square foot ceiling for it. So if I run that again, it gets rid of the zeros. So that's just what that's doing. And then if you come to the mass ceiling, basically this creates a ceiling and rounds off those numbers to integers, right? So if you see, it takes those and rounds them up, right? So partials get rounded up to the higher number, and then that gets placed into there. So that's our final sort of permutation of the occupant load, and that gets written to a parameter. So it writes to that occupancy load that we created, that shared parameter, this particular value,